Also key, of course, is how the ANC relates with its tripartite alliance partners, and among them, the SACP. Its General Secretary, Mapaila, joins me in studio for reaction. Mapaila, thank you, and thank you for your patience as well while we were wading through some of the other issues. Your broad initial reaction to the outcome, the 7 people elected to be at the top table, the first among equals, they like to say, in ANC parlance. How do you feel about the composition of that top 7?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe, for first inviting us. Firstly, we want to congratulate the newly elected top officials, or national officials of the ANC, and wish them well in their tenure of office, and hope that they can endear themselves by serving the working class of our country, who desperately need the ANC to provide adequate services in their communities because of deepening poverty in our society. Of course, we always say we accept what the ANC gives us as an alliance partner. We don't interfere in the electoral processes. Whatever is the outcome, we go with. We are happy with the decision of the delegates. I said yesterday in this platform that we can say a million times, those of us who are non-voting delegates, but ultimately it's the delegates that have final say.
Yeah.
And they've demonstrated that through the culture and democratic processes of the ANC, which, by the way, is one of the most open in the whole country, in the democratic space. And I think society must appreciate that. And we appreciate the fact that the president in particular received a decisive victory, indicating the majority consensus of delegates, but in a democratic process. And this allowed him to act decisively going forward, and we want to see that decisiveness in action.
In what areas do you want to see decisiveness?
Decisive action in serving the working class, and decisive action in fighting against corruption, in renewing the organization, and giving appropriate content to the concept of renewal. Some of the issues that he articulated on the kind of ANC cadre you want to see in his political report, but also decisive action in uniting the rest of the revolutionary forces and across in our country, including the alliance, not dilly-dallying on basic things, particularly fundamental issues that affect the working class and the poor. We live in a country that has got so much resources with so many people suffering because of poverty. And that cannot be acceptable from a revolutionary movement in leadership to dilly-dally on taking critical economic decisions that will benefit the working class of our country.
So coming to the 2017 conference of the ANC, you as the SACP had reached a point where, as you rightfully say, you don't dictate to the ANC what they should do. But at that point, you were able to spell out what the stakes were if the ANC were to choose a leadership that you felt was not appropriate for that moment. I'm just wondering if you had a reading that said the stakes were just as high coming into this conference, particularly in as far as the path that the ANC has carved out since 2017 versus an alternative path. Were the stakes ever that high coming into this top 7 leadership, or was it one of those run-of-the-mill ANC elective conferences where, either way would have been okay?
Well, the stakes are too high for this conference, for us as the working class. We have issued a Part 2 session, a framework of our contribution to this conference as the SACP through an umsebenzi edition that we distributed yesterday at conference, as well as the message that I presented, which was Part 1 of that. Now we printed it as a common version. It's available on our digital site, where we're spelling out key areas of concern for us as the working class, as a part of the working class, which this conference must deal with. We've raised issues regarding the economy deeply, not just complaining about the economy that is not doing well, particularly for the working class, because yes, in this country, despite the living crisis that has befell the working class because of high rate of inflation, even on things that they have not generated as the working class, for instance, the war, special military operation by Russia on Ukraine, which has affected prices and supply chain markets in the world, affecting our people here. The Reserve Bank here put more interest rates, deepening the crisis of the working class. So despite all of that, we have tabled solutions of what we think should be the way forward. Because capital, despite all of this, has been making huge profits. All the banks in this country, the big banks, have declared huge profits this year. So it shows that whilst the working class is suffering under this crisis, capital or fractions of capital, particularly finance capital, has been laughing all the way to the bank. So we made critical proposal about, for instance, this, the ANC taking a policy towards a 24-hour running economy. And that process, which we think could tackle the developmental challenges that we face as a country, as well as tackling unemployment in our country, and create a functioning state, as well as the functioning economy that looks after everybody. And there were many others, for instance, around the issue of energy and all of that. So we have made that public.
In terms of what people like to call revolutionary morality, what should the top leadership do going forward, particularly with the cloud hanging over President Cyril Ramaphosa in as far as the issue of Parapara is concerned? There's already speculation of various scenarios playing themselves out, that potentially one of them has him back at Luthuli House running the ANC, while Paul Mashatile, who is now in the #2 position, ends up at Union Buildings. How important is it that President Ramaphosa deals with these matters of what you in the Alliance like to call revolutionary morality? And others, of course.
We raised these matters sharply in the conference as well regarding the moral decay in the revolutionary movement, wrong tendencies that have seeped in, the use of money, even in conferences like this, influencing this or that delegates, rather than the focus on the strategic mission of the ANC. Its strategic mission, literally, is to serve our people wholeheartedly and selflessly, to create a prosperous society that is united, democratic, non-racial. And therefore, the focus today becomes very important, becomes the basis of the renewal of the ANC to respond to the needs of the people and not self-service and self-interest of leaders.
Mapaila, let me ask you the question more pointedly. In that top 7 leadership, you have President Cyril Ramaphosa facing Parapara issues. You have Gwede Mantashe having had some certain findings made about him in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. He's taking those findings on review because he believes they are not supported by the evidence led about him and some of the comments made by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. And then you have Nomvula Mokonyane. I mean, the rap sheet is quite long in as far as what was found about her in State Capture Commission reports. These 3 comrades of yours, what should they be doing to, diffuse the cloud around them so that there's that confidence that's regained by society to say they're showing actively that they're committed to revolutionary morality?
As we know, firstly, the president has subjected himself to the rule of law, and that's very important. And we welcome this cooperation with all institutions, and he has submitted several statements to the public protector, to Parliament, to the Section 89 committee. Everywhere else where he was required to cooperate, he didn't use his position as president to subvert that. He has cooperated fully, and we welcome that. And I think that the rest of the other comrades, including Comrade Gwede, who has taken this matter under review, which is within the framework of the rule of law, within the framework of the law. So we do not have a problem when comrades are taking up issues within the framework of the law. But as long as they are accountable for their actions, including the president being accountable for his action.
Good point for us to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming through and engaging me. That's Mapaila. He's the General Secretary of the SACP, reacting to the outcomes of the top 7 leadership of the ANC having been elected today.